What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Chi and I am back with my top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts, and it's the UFC 293 betting show this week because that's the biggest game in town, and we're going to be concentrating on that card just like last week when it was UFC Paris. It's kind of a downtime. Obviously the PFL playoffs just wrapped up. Bellator are I don't know what Bellator are doing, but they have an Irish card coming up in a couple of weeks and all of that. So we are in the middle of a downtime in terms of the other organisations. One will be back as well and all, but the UFC are doing some good things here. Now, this isn't the best card in the world, but I've picked out some interesting bets, and actually sometimes it's tough enough to pick out bets on one specific card, or even when a card is maybe not the best card in the world. But this one, there was a couple of bets I left in the drafts even, and maybe we'll discuss them towards the end of the show. Before I get into all of that though, let's review last week. And again, not a great week. After the amazing run we went on there towards the middle of the year, it's been a tough month. Let's leave August behind us, I think, and we'll move forward to September. Even the start of September, not great, but the middle of September into September will be very good. We only hit one bet last week, and that was the Rosenham-Eunice Firo fight to go to a decision. And even people are probably thinking in the first round of that, after Rose had the broken finger, it mightn't be the best bet ever, but that got through at -155. My Irish bias went against me. I gave the two Irish lads, and unfortunately both of them lost. Now, Kenan Knockram wasn't too far away from winning a +130. I feel like an extra minute in the end of that third round and he could have snatched it, but Taylor Lapis absolutely deserved that win, don't get me wrong. And Reece McKee, I had him via a knockout at +450. And if you had that back, you were probably thinking, Shawnee, you're a genius in the last 30 seconds or the last 90 seconds even of the third round. But it wasn't to be for Reece either. I gave Charrier to win, but I gave him my decision and he didn't. He got through it a lot quicker, honestly, than I expected. And that was a great win for Charrier, although, maybe the matchmaking could have been a little bit tougher there. But anyway, and then Gagne, I would say a similar sort of thing. I gave him the win by decision as well, but he got through it very easily and dominated. So yeah, not the best week. Not the best week, but we'll move forward and we'll go on and we shall improve. Right. I'm starting at the very top this week and I'm talking about the main event first. And the bet I'm going for here, so the odds for Adesanya, I do think Adesanya will win, and I think he will win dominantly enough or maybe get a late finish. But the odds around those sort of bets, or Adesanya straight up, or let's say Adesanya by knockout or Adesanya by decision, I'm not the biggest fan of them, right? I don't think there's much value in them. So the bet I have gone for, I'm going for the over 3.5 rounds at -138. Now, I like this because I do think if Adesanya wins this fight, it will be later. Maybe as I said, this is 3.5 rounds, so maybe late 4-round stoppage or a 5th round stoppage, or to win by decision. Like, the most likely for me is him to win by decision. And while we're here, let's take a look at some of the other bets, and I'll talk more about why I picked what I picked then. But my bet, as I said, over 3.5 rounds at -138. So some of the prices straight up, I see some places here have Adesanya as high as -700. So that is a massive price. Now, I think that's probably justified. I see one place has him at -450. Now, that's a bit of an outlier. Most are around, the lowest after it is -599. It's all around -600-ish. And I think that's fair. If you can get -450, I would say absolutely take that. The Adesanya knockout is it's just after moving up to even money. So I'm looking at it here. Yesterday it was it was only -105, I think, so not massive. It's actually started out at +120. So not a massive jump there, but still +100 to get a knockout. I'm not too sure. I think it'll either be that or the decision. The price for Adesanya winning by decision is +130. So like you're not taking massive prices there. Now, my opinion, maybe your opinion is different. So if your opinion is different, maybe look at a few of the other prices. My opinion is it's going to be a longer fight. And I'll tell you the reasons for that in a second. But I think that over bet is good. And if you look at the over-under prices, so we forget about 1.5 rounds. The 2.5 rounds, the over is -225. So I expect it to go longer. The under +163. The under 3.5 rounds is +105, -138, as I said, for the over. And then 4.5 rounds, -105 for the over. The under is -125. So that's kind of the sweet spot there, and that's why I took it. I'm taking that sweet spot there between the over 3.5 rounds and maybe the fight going to the fight in the late and the fight going to a decision. Now, my reasoning behind that is pretty simple. I think both of these guys, it feels like that is the sort of fight they're preparing for, and they usually prepare for, and I'll explain that a little bit more fully. So, like, Adesanya is one of the most talented fighters we've ever seen in the UFC, no doubt about it. I'm a massive admirer of him. Look, I've spoken in the past about his issues in terms of maybe becoming a star because of what he does inside the cage, in terms of, you know, the Cannonier fight where it is people walking out in the 4th round, and the Vettori fight, somewhat the Whitaker fight the second time, even the Romero fight was one of the most boring fights ever. He has had a number of those fights, and he usually does it because he knows he's going to win. Now, the Romero fight may be a little bit different, no problem with that, and even the Romero fight, you understand it, but the Cannonier one, he knew he was going to win. He was winning early and he didn't take any chances. Now, should you do that? You know, you could say yes. Sporting wise, you could say yes. If we're looking at it as a meritocracy, and maybe you could say, if you're looking at it from Adesanya becoming the biggest star in the sport, you probably say no. He probably needs to go out in there and get the finish. But that's beside the point here. To me, that's what he does, right? And there are some examples, obviously, where he doesn't. But I think they are based on the matchup, and the matchup here is something that I'm very interested in, right? Because I said both guys would fight the fight to get the over 3.5 rounds. And I mean that. And the way I think Strickland will fight that fight is very simple. Very simple. Because he says all the time, I've been practicing wrestling, but I'm going to, just forget about that. And I'm going to just throw hands, and I'm going to go into a war and all that. Sean Strickland never does that. Never does that, right? Now, do I think he's going to wrestle for 5 rounds or something like that? Probably not, right? Do I think he'll try a bit of wrestling? Maybe. He probably should. But also, is he the sort of lad that will walk into something and get himself destroyed? Now, you're probably saying, Shawnee, what are you talking about? Did you watch the Pedro fight? And absolutely, yeah, but that's more of like a one big punch knockout. Adesanya has the ability to do that, right? But it's not, I suppose, what he's known for. He did it to Pereira, the other side of it, but he's not a one punch knockout guy. But as I said, he can obviously do that. He's more of a technically brilliant, superb fighter who can game plan really well and beat most people. And I think that's what he's going to do here, right? And for Strickland's point, what I think he's going to do is he's going to try his best to take him down. He's going to try his best to win the stand-up battle. He's going to try his best to win the technical battle and all of that, right? And if he does, right? We've the over 3.5 rounds here, so if Strickland wins by decision, we're still winners, right? So that's grand. But if he does, right? But if he doesn't, is he going to do enough to allow Israel Adesanya enough of an opening to finish him? Is he going to do enough that will force Izzy not to just canter to a finish like he did against to the finish rather than a finish, like he did against Cannonier, Vettori and others? I don't think so. Like, I do feel Sean Strickland talks a lot of rubbish and all of that, but I do feel he is one of these guys who will get in there. He will absolutely give his all to try to win. But when he knows he can't, I don't think he'll want to get knocked out. I don't think he'll do what Korean Zombie did and take a big chance and get himself knocked out. I don't think he'll do that. And I don't think Izzy, and well, in fact, I know Izzy isn't the type of guy to go and look for a big knockout against the guy who is overmatched against him. We've never seen him do that. Never. You know, in fact, it's the guys who brought it, like Castellan brought it, and Izzy's well able to go for a guy like that. Pautan brought it, and Izzy went for him the first time. Okay, didn't work out so well, but the second time, Izzy brought it back at him and knocked him out. But when a guy doesn't go for him, which I think will be the case after Strickland realizes he's outmatched, Izzy will just happily beat him to a decision. And that's how I think the fight will go. Now, could that change very late? Could that change, let's say, in the fifth round? Or could Strickland maybe get tired and 5 rounds against Adesanya is a very tough thing to do? Possibly. That's why I'm giving myself that little bit of an edge there and with the extra round and a half or whatever it might be. And finding that sweet spot in terms of the prices as well was my big issue about finding this one, or else I probably would have gone for Adesanya by decision. But I think my logic there is sound enough. Now, it mightn't happen like that. Look, Adesanya go out and punch him first punch and knock him out. It's MMA. If anyone tells you they know exactly what's going to happen in MMA, they're liars, right? They're liars. And there's plenty of them out there. You'll never get that from me on this bench, although you might the odd time. But this one, that's just the way I see it going. As I said, I might be wrong, and people out there, some may know better than me even, but yeah, that's my opinion. I think it's going to be Adesanya winning the fight, Strickland trying hard, and it kind of getting into this, I suppose, a pattern. I think it'll become a very patterned fight, without like the big knockout blows from either guy. Like let's just look at their last few fights and let's see the like how the fights have went, because we talk about this a lot of the time, and I think it's interesting doing. Like Izzy has a pretty good finishing percentage. If we look at it, he's 24 wins, he's only 8 decisions and 16 knockouts of his 2 losses. Okay, he has lost 1 by decision as well, but his last 2, obviously the Pedro fights, as we spoke about, both knockouts, but there was 4 decisions in a row then behind that, so half of his decisions in his whole career have come in his last 5 fights, his last 6 fights in the last 2 years. So that, I think that tells a bit of a story. For Strickland at the other side of it, he's had 27 wins, 12 decisions, so that's a pretty high percentage there. And 3 of his 5 losses have also been by decision. So, 2 of his last 3 fights have been by decision. He went to decision with Jack Hermanson, Uriah Hall, and Krzysztof Jotko as well. All of those decisions in the last 2 years. Now he's had, obviously Pedro knocked him out. He knocked out Abu Magomedov, and there was a few more in there as well. So, there have been a lot of decisions in their fights over the last while. So definitely, I think the logic is sound in that one, and that's why I am going for that as my first bet of the week. Right, I'll be honest here, and I said it at the start, my bets changed an awful lot this week. And I'm going to mention my 5, but I'll mention some more afterwards as well when we get, I suppose, to the recap. The first bet here I'm going for, though, is Tyson Pedro. And he is fighting Anton Turkalj, and straight up he is plus 100 to win that fight. This is a fight again that the prices have kind of changed a little bit in the last while. I see him in one book here. He's actually minus 117. He started out minus 125, went all the way out to minus 153, and he's into plus 100 now. So I wonder why that has changed an awful lot, right? I think I know why that has changed an awful lot. And I think it's people kind of looking at his record. Now, he lost to Makdessi last time out, and I'm pretty sure I came on here and go, I'm never betting on Tyson Pedro again after that one. I was, and I think maybe I had the under on that, possibly. I think I had the knockout on that, and it kind of, another fight that kind of drifted towards the end. And I actually wouldn't rule that out in this fight at all. Now, the other part on Pedro is like he hasn't won a big one in a while. Like his last 2 wins in the UFC are Harry Hunsucker and Ike Villanueva, since he's come back from injury. Those are his only 3 fights. If you're trying to Modestus Bukowska's one since 2018, when he lost to Shogun and we lost to OSP. So there is, I suppose, a rating of Tyson Pedro gone on in real time here. And so here it is. Here's my opinion on it, right? And here's where I gave him as the bet. I don't rate Tyson Pedro as highly maybe as some, but I don't rate him as lowly as some either, or as badly as some either. I think he is one of those guys that if he shows up, he can be very, very, very good. And if he doesn't, he can not be. I think if there's a real bad matchup for him, say like I'm looking at Turkalj's record, let's say he fought someone like a Gelta and Almeida, I wouldn't be backing him in that. Or if he fought like a really good wrestler, I wouldn't be backing him in that. Now Turkalj can wrestle a bit, but not an amazing wrestler. Q 3 rounds of wrestle blanket in here, but we'll leave that point for a second. I just think he's fighting over, he's fighting down under as well, and there'll be a lot of his home crowd there with him. And I just think when you look at this matchup, right, and you see what Anton Turkalj's done, I suppose, over his career. He's lost his 2 UFC fights, and he won his Dana White Contender Series fight to come in, but he had a good run in Brave and other places. I think people are probably saying, right, he's the coming guy. He's 27 years of age. He's 8-2. He's good knockout power. He's a good finish and all. He's probably just going to be a little bit too good for Tyson Pedro, like Bukowskis was. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Like watching some of Turkalj, I think he's a little bit too slow. I don't know if he hits as hard as a lot of the 205ers. I'm not sure if he's as well-rounded as some of the 205ers. Now, I don't think Tyson Pedro is as well-rounded as some of them either, and I would say he absolutely is not. But he does have the speed. He does have the athleticism. He does have the power. And I think that will be the factor here, the biggest factor here in winning this one. Turkalj is the type of guy who will kind of stick in there, and if the fight is to be won by decision, he will probably win it by decision, right? But if so the frustrating thing with me is Pedro. You look at Pedro, and I haven't thought about this before, but I'm going to look at it now, right? Pedro is the type of guy who always wins his fights early, but maybe not necessarily too early. Now, the Harry Hunzorka one, he had 65 seconds. But the Villanueva one, right? The last 5 seconds of round 1. His fight before that, 3:54 round 1, 4:10 round 1, 4:07, 3:01. So it's like the end of round 1 now. They're all very early, but he's a guy who kind of waits and then kind of takes you out towards the end. I think against a guy like Turkalj, that'll work out well, because I think lulling him into maybe the pace that he wants to fight at is a smart move. I really do, because if he gets into that pace and he thinks you're going to fight the rest of the fight in that pace, he'll think, well, I've won this battle here. My battle was to get the fight to this pace, and then when you turn up the pace and get the big shot and knock him out, that's the difference. I think that's the difference. So I'd like to see a bit of an evolution from Pedro here as well. Even if he can't get that knockout early, I would like to see him throw a few more shots. I think a big problem with Pedro as well, right, which might cause him to do exactly what I did, was I think he is kind of a little bit afraid of his cardio. We've seen it in fights in the past where it has kind of let him down a bit. And I think he doesn't throw his paws because he's afraid if he throws too many punches, he's gonna run out of fuel, and that'll be that. Whereas against Turkalj, I don't know if he's gonna push the pace hard enough to actually make him run out of fuel. So I just feel like it's a very favourable matchup for Tyson Pedro. I really do. I think Turkalj is there to be hit. 2, I think he's going to struggle to hit Pedro. And 3, I don't know if he pushes the pace hard enough to take Pedro to a place where he's going to struggle late. So, with that said, I'm going for the underdog, Pedro. And it's the price as well. I like the price here. I really like this price. So plus 100. And that looks like it's going to go out as well. That price looks like it's going to go better. So maybe holding off on that another couple of days and see how it goes there. All right. Next bet number 3. I'm going for Carlos Ulberg to win via TKO KO. Now, this isn't the most amazing price in the world. It's minus 134. I was looking at a couple of places. You know, hopefully it'll be closer to even money by the time the fight comes around, but that's around the price it is right now. That bet hasn't actually been out for too long, so maybe you'll be able to get an update on that the closer it gets to the fight. So he's fighting against Jung here, and watching both of these lads, Look, they're not too dissimilar in terms of fighters. They're two 205ers who want to go out there and they want to be technical fighters and they want to land the harder shots, right? So it's a very simple fight like that. This is one I don't really see massive takedowns. I don't see a lot of grappling unless someone maybe gets knocked down or someone gets hurt or something like that. This is going to be, in my opinion, a technical boxing match. And I think picking Carlos Ulberg in a technical boxing match, or picking against Carlos Ulberg in a technical boxing match, against anyone outside of a very high level, is probably a foolish thing to do. I think he's very, very good. He's minus 286 here, plus 220 for Jung. And I think that's about fair, to be honest. And now, people have listened to this before. I actually rate Jung. I think he's a good fighter. He has vicious power. Very, very powerful fighter, and as I said, a good technical fighter as well. But I do really like Ulberg. I just, you know, he went in there and who was it? Kennedy and Juku? Yeah, it was indeed that fight where he lost, and you know, Kennedy does what Kennedy does. I suppose lulls you into false sense of security and then knocks you out. But since that, he's looked really good, and he's got 3 knockouts in his last 3 fights, and I think that's a big reason here why I'm going for this as well. Now, Jung is, you know, he knocked out Kennedy Nchuku, so if you're looking at it on MMA mats, he's a bit of an advantage there. But like, even in his losses, I watched back part of that Devin Clark fight today, and you know, he landed shots against Devin. But the big issue that I saw in that fight, especially early, because I think that's the most important part of these sort of fights, especially at heavyweight and light heavyweight to watch, is he did get drawn in by a guy, you know, Devin Clark, and I think even more so Ulberg will try to do it, drawn in by a guy who wants to counter him. And if you do that against Ulberg, you're in a really, really, really tough spot, because he can outbox you with his skill, but if he can force you to beat yourself to the punch, and what I mean by that is you're putting yourself basically in an area where you're going to get punched by him, or he wants to punch you, you're on a real, you know, road to nowhere there. It's a real problem. And I think Jung will do that. He's not the type of guy to stand around and, you know, wait on ceremony and wait for the fight to happen. He will try to make it happen. Now, he could go in there and knock him out because of that. Kennedy did it. But I think he will do it earlier, and I don't think he'll wait around as much. Now, Ulberg is a guy, like, as I said, he's happy enough to take you on in a technical matchup, but I think he's very good. Very, very good. It was the Pedro fight, I think I was watching, where he just kind of stood off and go, all right, come on to me and I'm going to finish you. And that's exactly what he did. That's the fight I see here, and that's why I'm going for him to get the knockout at minus 134. Right, next bet I'm going for bet number 4, and I'll run through this one pretty quickly. Not the biggest bet in the world, but I like this price, even though it is it's minus 195, right? Okay, not the biggest price in the world. And we look further into the prices here in a second, but it's Mullarkey and Makdessi to go to a decision. I really like this fight to go to decision, if I'm being honest. I think they're two very similar fighters. They're two strikers who go at it, but maybe don't have like the biggest knockout power in the world. Like, you look at Mullarkey, 2 of his last 3 fights have gone to a decision. He did get actually got knocked out in his last fight, and half of Makdessi's wins have gone to a decision. 5 of his 8 losses have gone to a decision as well. If you look at his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights, all went to a decision. And 2 of the 3 before that was a spin and wheel kick. So what? 8 of his last 9 fights have gone to a decision. And he's fought some good guys in there, Abel Trujillo, Jesus Pinedo, Nasrat Hakparast, Bahamundes, Mehdi Baghdad, Yancy Medeiros, and more. I just think this is going to be a good old-fashioned kickboxing match between two kind of middle of the road, what are they, lightweights. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun, but I think Mullarkey will win, and I think he is the betting favorite. Let me just check the money line prices. He is minus 250 plus 200 for Makdessi. So I do think Mullarkey will win. If Makdessi was the favorite, I might be more inclined to say it won't go to a decision, because I think he has a touch more power in fights where he's dominating. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to come from behind with power. Whereas Mullarkey, I think, not necessarily with his power, but with his cardio ability and his doggedness, he's the type of guy that can do that. But I do think Makdessi is a very, very hard-chinned, tough-nosed type of guy, and he will stick in there. I think he'll probably lose 2 or 3 rounds, and I think it'll go to a decision. As I said, I just think the power from Mullarkey won't be enough to put Makdessi out. Makdessi will hold on. I don't think Makdessi's maybe at this stage of his career. Let's see I feel like Makdessi's younger than we think. No, 38. He's relatively old. So I think that will go to a decision. And that's that in that one. And right, the last bet of the week. This is. We give a flyer every week, as you know, so those are my 4 bets, and this is the 5th one. This is the flyer, and this is a flyer. This is a real flyer now. I'm going for Volkov to win by submission at plus 1,400. When I saw that, I was like, ooh. Now, he's fighting Tuivasa, and Volkov has had a lot of fights. He's had 46 fights in his career, and he's only won 3 times by submission. Now that's not an awful lot. His last one was a good few years ago, just before I think 2 fights before he came into the UFC back in 2016. So it's been a while. It's been a while. Don't get me wrong. Tuivasa, he's only been submitted once in his losses in the UFC, or sorry, in his career. In fact, it was in the UFC to Sergey Spivak, who we saw last weekend. But the thing about it here is, right, Volkov is a guy who, and I remember talking about Volkov in one of these before, and I was like, he'll try in the odds takedown and all that. And a load of people in the comment section are like, what are you talking about? Volkov never throws in takedowns. And I'm like, yeah, that is true, right? That is true. He doesn't throw in a lot of takedowns, right? But if you're thinking in this fight, I feel like he's going to jab him up and use his range very well, use his length very well. But is he going to get the finish against Tuivasa that way? And is Tuivasa going to cause him any few problems? Let's say he does, right? So this is my thinking, and this, as I said, this is a flyer, so this is not go out and put $100 on this or anything. This is a fiver you never want to see again type of thing. If Tuivasa does have a bit of success on the inside, lands a few shots, I think Volkov will be happy to tie him up, maybe get a trip and get on top of him. Now, as I said, and you can probably look at the stats, he hasn't that many takedowns in the UFC, doesn't really go for him a lot because he uses his size really well. But the difference here, he's fighting a guy who, in Tuivasa, has knocked out guys like Derek Lewis is big, Sakai, Hardy and others. Stefan Struve, a great example. He knocked out Stefan Struve, who are bigger and longer than him because he's a really good boxer. Now, is he the best boxer in the world? Can he be beaten? Can you beat him and all that? Absolutely, no problem. But he also can cause people problems. And that's my thinking. If he does cause him a problem, could he get tripped? Could he get taken down? Could he get submitted? I think there's a possibility. Plus 1,400 is the flyer. That's the flyer. That's the logic behind it, and that's what we're going for. All right, let's look at some of the other prices, and we'll recap the bets then. One bet I left on the cutting room floor because the price isn't in yet, and I really, really wanted to get this price, but we have a deadline here to reach, and we haven't got it yet. So the Kiefer Crosby Kevin Jousset fight, it's a very, very close fight in terms of the bet, and Kiefer is plus 130, minus 163 for Jousset. What I wanted to back here was the fight to finish inside the distance, and as I said, the betting lines aren't up yet. I would guess it will be maybe somewhere around even money, hopefully. And if it is, I think I'd be backing that. I just think the two of these guys are going to put it all out there. They're going to lay it out in front of everyone, the first fight of the night. And I think it could be the fight of the night, because that's the way the two of these lads fight. Obviously, I've seen Kiefer fighting since he was an amateur, and watching some of you said he's a very, very good fighter as well. I actually find it very hard to pick that fight. And I'm not going to give you another Irish tip here now, because I'll probably get killed if I pick all the Irish guys and they all lose. They'll probably say I'm a bad influence on them or something. But I just like this to finish inside. I think one of the two of them is getting knocked out. I think that's just the way both of them fight, and I think that's a good bet in that one. Right, so some of the other fights on the night. Let's start and just give the money line price. I know we talked a good bit about Adesanya Strickland, so we leave that there. But minus 599 is around the price, plus 450 for Strickland. Obviously, the minus price for Adesanya. I think it's very interesting. If you fancy Strickland, he's plus 900 to get the knockout. If you fancy him to take him down and get the submission, he's plus 2200. So a big price there. Adesanya inside the distance, minus 110 as well there. I like my over bet in that one, if I'm being honest. Volkov Tuivasa. Volkov is the favourite, minus 250, plus 200 for Tuivasa. If you fancy the Tuivasa knockout, plus 275. If you fancy the Volkov knockout, minus 110. So not massive there. I like the submission, plus 1400, as I spoke about earlier. The over-under on that one, let's say a round and a half over-under, minus 105, minus 125 for the under. So they do fancy it to finish under. If you fancy the over 2.5 rounds, plus 200. If you fancy the fight to go to a decision, plus 275. Could it go to a decision? Maybe. I do think like Volkov is the type of guy who, if he can control the fight, I think he may control the fight and keep controlling the fight. It's only 3 rounds as well. I think that fight to go to decision at plus 275 bet is not bad. Now it's a heavyweight fight, so take that as it is. But I just have a little bit of a feeling that Tuivasa will cause him 1 or 2 problems. I don't think he'll win at all. Absolutely not. But I think he might cause him enough problems to make him either 1, try something different, or 2, be very controlled. So yeah, that's my call on that one. This is an interesting fight. Felipe Dos Santos and Manel Kape. People probably saying, Shawnee, what are you talking about? This lad's only 7 fights. He's supposed to fight in the Contender Series. I went and watched a bit of him. He's a good fighter. And I had someone actually text me and go, here, have you seen this lad who's fighting Manel Kape? This is not by no means an easy fight. And I'm like, I was just literally saying the same thing to myself. Plus 300, minus 400 for Kape. The submission is the thing I want to look at for Santos. Now, plus 1200, maybe I should have changed it. Maybe this should have been my flyer. Can I go with a double flyer? Do you know what? I'm going with a double flyer. I'm going for 6 bets this week. Plus 1200. This is too good. This is too good to turn down. Santos by submission. It's plus 1200. It's really good. Like I think Kape on short notice, he's a guy who flies off the handle a little bit. He gets a little bit mad. The Santos is a good fighter. He's good on the ground. He's powerful. I think he has a chance. I really think he has a chance. That plus 300 price is a good price. I wouldn't back Kape in a million years at plus 400. I don't like it. Now, look, chances are Kape wins the fight. But this Dos Santos is a really good fighter. He's fighting a fight. It's on UFC Fight Pass over in LFA, I believe it was. And he got hit hard early. And it was the type of one, if you haven't seen my experience podcast with Harry Powell, please check that out. But it's the type of fight that you're thinking, a guy only 5 or 6 fights into his career is going to panic here, But he didn't. He came through and he won it. And that's the type of fighter that you like to see in those sort of situations, and is ready to climb the ranks. And I do think he is one of them. So that's a very, very interesting one there. Lane and Taff in the heavyweight division. Look, the under round and a half, a minus 225 is probably the bet to go there. I don't know. I don't know who I'm leaning there. Someone's getting knocked out anyway. We spoke about Turkalj and Pedro. The straight-up price, as I mentioned, plus 100 for Pedro, might be minus 125 for Turkalj. If you fancy the knockout, Turkalj plus 300, Pedro plus 350. You know what? I like that. I like the Pedro plus 350. Can we get Pedro round 1 knockout? Let's have a look at that. We can. And that is plus 750. Ooh, I like that. Are we going with 3? we're only going with 2. We'll go with 2. But yeah, I really like that. Plus 750 Pedro to win round 1. Knockout. That's really, really good. So, yeah, we've Ulberg Jung, as we spoke about, minus 275 plus 200. Mullarkey Makdessi, we went through that. And yeah, those are the big fights. Hackbrast, Quinona as well. Hackbrast, a big favourite there, minus 500. Right, so we will recap the bets quickly before we go here. The main event to go over 3.5 rounds, minus 138, plus 100 for Tyson Pedro. Carlos Ulberg to get the knockout at minus 134. Mullarkey Makdessi to go decision at minus 195. And I'm doubling up on the Flier. Volkov submission, plus 1400 and plus 1200. Felipe dos Santos to submit and LK. All right, everyone, I will leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Please bet responsibly, bet safely. Let me know your bet in the comment section below, and I'll see you all next time.